Welcome to Kansas City during the World Cup.
I drove 8 hours from Chicago to Kansas City for one World Cup match. Welcome to Iowa, the Buckeye State. Welcome to Missouri, the Show Me State. Welcome to the beautiful sunflower state of Kansas. Austria against Algeria. It wasn't the final. It was the kind of group stage match most fans overlook but can realistically fit around their schedules and their budget, which made it the perfect test. Is attending the World Cup actually worth the ticket, the travel, and everything you have to reach to your seat? Let's find out. I'm going to tell you exactly my experience and whether it was or not. By the time I started the long drive home, the answer was more complicated than I expected from the match, because the match was only part of what I paid for. I came back with 2 lists, everything I wish someone had told me before I went, because I'd never gone. It was my first time going to a World Cup game, let alone even a soccer match. And everything I think needs to be changed before the next World Cups, whether that's in Spain in 2030, whether that is in Saudi Arabia in 2034, or whether it comes back here to the United States, all the more merrier in 2038. Welcome to Kansas City. The festival vibes are here. As you can see, everyone's having it with the internationalness. It's the first time doing this ever. Lots of stuff to see and explore, and more to explore. This is what attending one is actually like. From Chicago, the nearest host city still meant spending most of the day in a car. And let's be real, are you going to fly to Kansas City? A lot of the tickets came up to, even last minute, especially last minute, $1,000. So probably not. There's train, but let's be real. Are we going to take train in the U.S. from one city to another? Yeah, no. Up through Iowa and down into Missouri, Kansas City looks manageable on a map of the country. It actually, in my personal experience, it did feel long. It did feel like it wasn't as manageable as one would think driving through it. But in reality, put on good music, good podcasts, or whatever, time does go by and you get through those cornfields, rolling hills, and straight up nothingness of rural landscapes that stretches most of the drive. Let's be real here. You are going to go through the Midwest, so there's no 2 ways around it. And really, what it calls for is that any moments where you gotta get gas, and yes, there's places to eat, and yes, you're gonna see windmills and all that stuff. But believe me, you're gonna feel like you're gonna fall asleep on the wheel. Do not. Make sure you bring your caffeine and your energy, because at the end of the road is that once in a lifetime experience, potentially. So nobody really tells you what it's like when you arrive and what Kansas City got right. So when you get there, you walk up, it feels like you're a few blocks out, and you can hear it. You can hear the Fan Festival, you see many flags, people walking around enjoying languages of all types. I was there just after the Netherlands game against Tunisia, and I saw a lot of orange people in orange, so unsurprisingly, that's their national color, the Netherlands. And I'll be honest, I expected an NFL city temporarily borrowing a soccer tournament for a few weeks. What I actually found felt like a city that meant it, a soccer's nation, a soccer city. Kansas City did embrace it well. I think it did well in terms of the public transportation, the light rail. It was easy to get to one place or another. This wasn't a consolidation prize for people without match tickets. In fact, many people went just to go to the Fan Festival itself, not to go to the game at all. I wanted to go to the game, so that's why. But food representing countries from across the tournament, stage, music, and crowds of people who had nothing in common except showing up for the same reason. The beauty of the sport of football. And I'll tell you this, football or soccer brings on the best of all people. And I didn't see any negatives whatsoever. I saw people from all throughout the world. I saw especially Argentinians because Argentina's team was based in Kansas City because they are playing many of their matches in Kansas City. So that was interesting to see. But if you only have budget enough time for the match itself, you're missing half of it. So we made sure when I went there to go to the rest of it. Definitely the Fan Festival is another important part to go to. As I said, people go for that reason alone. But also the food, the city markets, and the Kansas City stage, as well as the Kansas City, like the sports area by the stadium, I think T-Mobile Arena, that was epic. People celebrating as each goal was made and done from previous games or games just prior to mine. This was at the stage of the group stages where all of them, where you had two games playing at once. So yes, there was a lot of people on the screens watching two different nations or four different nations play two different games at the same time. So what isn't obvious until you're there? So at some point in the middle of all that noise, I ended up talking to a group of Algerian friends. Actually, I'm not an Algerian at all, but lo and behold, I was able to befriend a lot of people who were of different nationalities, different nations. They even gave me a flag that I was able to bring home. And at some point in the middle of all that noise, I ended up, speaking French. I knew French already, but also Spanish. And they didn't speak much English, but you learn so much about their country, so much about their people. It's just a beautiful experience. And this is just one facet. It's not just Algerians, but Algerians are probably one of the warmest people I've been able to encounter. But definitely, if you go to a World Cup, you see any game, you see people who are actually from the nation itself, because people are going to travel across the world and spend whatever amount of money to do so. Even if it's a few, you'll still find that few, and you'll definitely enrich yourself in talking and being able to experience such a social, cosmopolitan experience. So his shoulders just gave it to me. So this not the same. It's not, and I'm gonna break down the price, but you're gonna be surprised at the end what exactly I paid. So next on, everyone says the atmosphere is different in person. Almost nobody tells you why. Well, I can tell you that I went to. That was the last one, Algeria versus Austria. That was the last group game. It was at 9 p.m. So also keep in mind, study and figure out your time. You don't want to miss your game, because stadiums are oftentimes, and many of the host cities have this, they're not next to your hotel most likely. So as it took forever. What actually makes it a bad wait isn't the total time per se. It's whether you can tell it's moving. So where do I draw the line exactly versus stalling versus when you're progressing? So when you're in a line, for example, the end result, you're going to be at the stadium. You're going to get your seat. That's why you book 2 hours in advance, whether you're going wherever you're going. Make sure you get to the stadium 2 hours in advance, because there's a whole lot of stuff to go and do, eat, and enjoy the pregame, so to speak, at the stadium. A lot of the stadiums shut down their parking spaces to have these things. So when I'm waiting in line, I'm thinking, I'm going to shuttle, whatever, and it takes a lot of time to drive or go take a train or whatever you're doing to get to a stadium for the game. Just remember, it may take forever, but the end result is so worth it. And believe it or not, when you're on your phone watching other games, and believe me, bring a charger, because you're going to need one. The charging stations aren't as available as I would have thought. It goes by just as fast when you're watching other games. So make sure that my takeaway is being close to a stadium on a map means nothing if the actual path there wasn't built for this many people. So don't forget, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people. When I mean thousands, I mean that's the least. Probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Don't forget, these stadiums are also filling up. 60,000 to 80,000 people capacity, full house. And you may think that a lot of them don't sell out, but they do. They do sell out in the end when it gets too close to the game. So keep in mind that. The other thing is what it actually costs and what should change. So when I look to the future, right? So my exact bill, what I paid was $370 per ticket. I got 2 tickets, and the average, you've probably seen and you've heard on the news, was thousands of dollars, and you've seen as high as 10, if not millions and all that. Just remember, buy early. Keep your eye on the game. Keep your eye on the website, on the main FIFA website, on the main sports venue website. Do not do the third parties, because there have been so much going on in the news about many people getting screwed over by vendors, by third party, and all. Just avoid that. If you need to pay extra to do it and you think it's worthwhile, just go through the main thing, the main venue, the main events website. Do not do third parties. Trust me, do not do it. And yes, I paid $370 a piece. That is very cheap, and I got it at the last minute. I did not. So I went through. So if you remember, World Cup went through 3 or 4 stages of pre-sales throughout like almost a year ago now. This is 2026, so since 2025. I signed up for all 3 of them. I couldn't get tickets for any of them. I actually put my name down for 3 tickets. I even had the privilege of being a Visa card holder in order to get in, and I couldn't get in at all. So I waited until the match, until I saw something just pop up, and this was in the middle of the tournament because I had like essentially given up on going to the World Cup, and I saw this game, Austria versus Algeria, $370 a piece on the lower level. Buy one of the goals, yes, buy one of the goals, but you're by one of the fan group, one of the team's national fans, so to speak, fan base area, because each team has their own fan base on each opposite side of the goal. Believe me, was it amazing? I was on the Algerian side. I look Algerian. Everybody thought I was Algerian. They gave me the flag, and it was amazing. I can't describe it in words besides just do it. And it was so worth my $370 a piece. And I paid for it really cheap. Everyone's just shocked by that, but that's what I did. And I didn't have to pay for flights or anything because I had my own car to drive 8 hours. So yes, that's what it actually costs. But here's what I would recommend would change, and this is just a recommendation. The ticket was never the whole cost, because don't forget, you got food, you got all this stuff, and believe me, we'll get to the food in a bit, but you got hotels that are often jacked up to $300, $400, $500 a night. Mine wasn't any different, unfortunately. It was $500, I believe. But it was if you become like a loyalty program for whatever hotel you're going to, like Marriott Envoy, look it up and research which ones, so that way you get points for staying at hotels like that. I think Marriott Envoy is a sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026, so you get points for doing this stuff. So take advantage of it when you can. And same with the flights. I didn't do it, but with American Airlines, I think they had the same ordeal too. So definitely do that. But in a sense, my problem was I didn't really have any issues. Kansas City wasn't a problem at all. It was a phenomenal place to visit. It's a tournament-wide thing. I think that's the issue as a whole. It's such a high paywall for so many people. This is supposed to be everyone's sport. The world will come together, but it couldn't have been any more different. Because a lot of people sold their homes, sold their cars, did all sorts of crazy things I've heard to do that. And that's where the problem comes out. And I think, yes, that is common for people to do throughout every World Cup, but this was the most expensive World Cup. And $370 is good of a bargain that was for my World Cup this time around. It was pretty expensive when you compare it to Qatar 2022 World Cup and Russia and Brazil and so on, the previous World Cups. So that's the one problem I would look at, obviously, in making reform. Hopefully that would change, but I'm not going to hold my breath to it, unfortunately. A real tier of tickets priced for an average fan, not just what the market will bear. So I'm not going to have people create false demand in order to jack up the prices. That's what I wish. We want clear, visible pricing instead of dynamic pricing that just makes it impossible to just to know if you're being treated fairly or not. And there was cases, and allegedly, I would say allegedly, of federations and associations of football buying up a whole bunch of tickets in order to later, sell them higher. So you can't let that happen. You gotta be more strict. You gotta make that more transparent. So FIFA already has an official resale and exchange marketplace, but like I said, that was the place where I got my tickets at a good deal, and surprisingly so, because there was a lot of cases where I couldn't see tickets be lower than $1,000, and I looked for weeks endlessly, like bug-eyed, straight for many months. Even for crappy games, they were still really expensive, like $300, $400. So that's what needs to improve, and it's clearly how those fees are later added. Also, pricing rules and protections need to be explained more better so that average fans understand what they are paying and whether a resale price is reasonable. Also, more park and ride capacities are better, because ride shares are not going to happen. They didn't happen well because stadiums were just too far away from streets and parking and all that. Almost all of them I can think of. So parking was impossible or way too expensive. And return shuttles, they run late, thankfully, but that was how I did, through shuttles. That was the best thing you could do. $30 I paid to do a round-trip shuttle from the Fan Festival. So if you had to take a transportation to your game, do the shuttles and make sure you get from the Fan Fest. Do not go from anywhere. I wouldn't recommend it, because the Fan Fest is like the main FIFA World Cup sponsor rendezvous point, you could say. So that's how I would say it. Return, like I said, return and make sure you keep an eye on that. And the lines, man, they were atrocious. That was the other thing. They were so bad. But thankfully, I befriended a lot of Algerians, and it made the time in the line go by so much faster, thankfully. Also, clear wayfinding on the way out, not just way in. So up front, plain language communication about what you can and can't bring. So transparent bags was like the big thing at a certain dimension size. It was like kind of TSA, a lot of security checking, unsurprisingly, both at the stadium and at the Fan Festival. So do be mindful of that and for future. And just make sure you don't find out things the hard way. So verify. So my takeaways: verify your FIFA. If you can't buy tickets through the pre-sales and all that, and regular sales, verify their FIFA resale fees and markup rules, so that immediately before you go and proceed ahead. And again, just be careful. None of this shouldn't be happening to anybody. Everybody should be there to enjoy. And none of this is bitterness. It's just how the event worked, unfortunately, and it was inevitable in many ways. These are just the gaps between working and actually being built for someone with a normal job versus celebrities, which they can spend as much as they want whenever they please. So my takeaway from this is the ticket price is only one part of the real bill. Just budget accordingly. A lot of stuff which I'm going to get into right now. Actually, I'll get into it right now. Budget for everything around it, not just the tickets. Food. The food was so unhealthy, so salty, so big, or not so big, but so much it's not much options in the stadium. In the Fan Festival, there was a lot, but it's all marked up price. You saw at least $20 in a lot of things, $12 maybe for drinks, $7 for your drinks if it's Coca-Cola. But yeah, you couldn't really find anything you couldn't find everything was for eating was at least $20, at least $20. So keep that in mind for future. It might have been just for this World Cup, but I'd be more cynical about it for future. So where does this go next? So after what Kansas City had to solve, I started thinking about which cities could realistically do this next. Because let's be real, this World Cup left out a lot of cities and areas in the US and in Canada and Mexico that could have done a better job from other cities. I think Kansas City did well, but considering it's kind of isolated compared to the rest of the other host cities, that was something to consider. So in my opinion, I would say this. For 2038, if the U.S. were to host the World Cup again, I'd say Nashville needs to, they have their new stadium, this Tennessee Stadium, 2027 is supposed to open, 60,000 seats. It's enclosed, should be hosting Super Bowl in 2030. that's the place to go. Nashville is the place I would enjoy to go for the World Cup. And I made a video about this previously about Nashville and Broadway. This couldn't be any more party city than that, especially during World Cup. I mean, come on. Without it, it was already crazy as it is, but didn't have it this time around. And Chicago, my hometown, the Chicago area, if there is a FIFA compliant city that's so cosmopolitan that was left out, it's Chicago. Unfortunately, though, we have this situation with our American football team moving because our stadium is kind of, let's just say, subpar in terms of capacity as well as being outdoor. And if you know about Chicago in the summer, it can be really humid and hot. So with this ordeal happening and all that, nothing's yet finalized, and they say let's just say the politics got involved with not allowing Chicago Chicago saying basically no to FIFA. So let's see if that happens, or if that changes the next time around, because if it does, lakefront, beach, cosmopolitan environment, so many people from all over the world in the city already. If they just had a proper stadium that could be indoors too, and we would have everything here to be able to host. But it is what it is. Otherwise, it could be, like I said, that. And in Las Vegas, if they had more time to adjust the stadium at Allegiant, which is I think where their American football team plays, they could have done it too, because it's a sports betting city too, but it's already expensive in and of itself. And then last but not least, Montreal, the most European city of the North America, in my opinion. Quebec, the French-speaking part of Canada, actually, just didn't have the ordeals and they said no essentially to this World Cup. But with them hosting many previous events like the Olympics and all that stuff in their Olympic stadium, they've got a little bit of a renovation plan to get going in order to be able to do it. Otherwise, like I said, Montreal would be a perfect place to be having this type of event. So yes, these are the places I would say if they could have it next time around, that'd be fantastic. So my verdict, was it worth it? I would say yes. Yes, it is. Not because the logistics were painless. They weren't. Not because it was the biggest match of the tournament. It wasn't. Not because I was being able to see superstars play like Ronaldo or Messi. Well, no, unfortunately. But the match was only part of what I paid. The real value was the feeling, the camaraderie, the cosmopolitan environment for one day, and a weekend like the rest of the world just showing up in a city. Like, don't forget, it wasn't just those two cities, those two teams, those two nations showing up. Many people from all over the world are just showing up anyways, and Americans too, because they want to know what's up with this hype and all that. And I can tell you, everyone walked away with it as worthwhile. So if you're on the fence, just go in knowing what I didn't know and what I wish I had known through this video. This will help you change your mind, and trust me, just go. Just go. If you don't have time, just go. The next one will have different cities, different stadiums, and probably a lot of the same problems. The real question isn't whether I'd go again, it's whether the people running this actually learn anything from this cycle, and whether someone with a normal, has a normal schedule, normal budget and all that, can still afford to be part of this arguably could be once in a lifetime event. So yes, and if you can go abroad, definitely do it, because it'll be amazing too. Hopefully cheaper, but we won't know until we know. So yes, numbers, drive time 8 hours, ticket costs $720 for 2 tickets, host costs $300 to $500 a night if you do like Marriott Bonvoy. Other hotels, yeah, you probably see similar, if not lower or higher, most likely higher if anything, so especially if you don't book the stuff in advance, so that doesn't change. Food costs anywhere from $20 to $50, and in terms of, especially with alcoholic beverages, pretty marked up high. And yeah, drinks at least $7 I've seen. Even water wasn't free, but in the US, luckily you could get water pretty, like if you ask in a restaurant or whatever, Starbucks, you'll get it for free, thankfully. And total trip costs, I would say just over $1,000. But yeah, to go to the Fan Fest was free, by the way. Fan Festival was free. Shuttle wait times were 45 minutes to an hour wait, so book 2 to 3 hours before a game, or make sure you show up to the shuttle to get there 2 or 3 hours before the game at the stadium, because you got pre-game tailgating, the likes of which are more like, they're amazing. They're not like NFL tailgating. So, and time from final whistle back to the hotel, yeah, that took another 2 or 3 hours. So expect long lines, but accept a lot of camaraderie and enjoy it, because this won't repeat itself most likely. And current FIFA resale fees and markup rules, just be aware of them. Make sure when you go to the World Cup to get your clothing and all that merchandise stuff before, because it's going to be even more expensive than what you spend. And by the way, good news, because where I got this, you'll never guess. I got it at my local pharmacy, Walgreens of all places. I would have never guessed that. Even places like Macy's and other department stores, they mark them out pretty easily. $50 at least to spend on shirts and all that. Do bring one, but make sure you get this stuff in advance. Trust me, before the game and before the match, because you're going to need it. You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb and just not have any jersey of any type. Even if it's unrelated to the teams you're seeing, doesn't matter. Just get something. Get some sort of shirt, some sort of hat, or whatever. And just also make sure you try to get some face paint too if you're going to a match that you're specifically rooting for a specific team, because you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. This is what happens when you go to the World Cup. You become one of them, or whatever nation you're rooting for. And I was rooting on Algeria. This was phenomenal, and I made lifelong friends doing this. And believe me, they don't speak English. So if you can learn another language, especially the one related to whatever team is playing in the tournament, do it. You will enjoy it. And yes, you might get lucky and collect and do like a bargain, a trade exchange. And it's just a way of showing respect and making friends. It's like when you trade jerseys, you trade shirts, you trade hats, whatever, or you trade flags in this case. So definitely was worth it. So this is my take. This is my World Cup experience. I hope you enjoy, and definitely stay tuned for what the sights and sounds of what I had to offer throughout this in this World Cup video for you. Thank you.